hope you've enjoyed that, and a big round of applause for William Pretsell as he pinned up there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, everybody. So my name is William Pretsell. I'm the head of operations for Forefront Coaching. We help people to connect through storytelling and through engaging content and all of these lovely things here, engaging with your staff. But I'm here to talk to you about stories today. Now, in the modern world, the average person is faced with between 4,000 and 10,000 ads every single day. So in a time that it's never been easier to get in front of our clients and our customers, actually the problem has become, how do we cut through the noise? Now, today we're talking about storytelling. Thank you, Rob, for all of that. I've learned a few things, and I'm going to end up going off script at some point today because I've been inspired by some of the things that Rob has said. Stories are massively important and massively powerful. They're not just for children. However, there's a reason that we use them as a vehicle to convey complex emotions, ideas, and to teach things that are hard to understand. Stories have been around since the dawn of the human age. We have used them to share opportunities. There's food over there. And dangers. There's a tiger over there. All of these stories we've done through mime and through talking when we first started out as human beings, through painted pictures, but we still use them here today. They are still a major part of our societal structure. Now, I want you to think back to this morning. Since you've arrived here today, how many stories have you shared? Times how you got here this morning. The argument you had with your partner when you left. The 3 kids that you had to deal with before getting here today. Oh, sorry, I'm bringing my own personal experiences into this. We share stories as a way to connect with each other. We share stories as a way to get to know each other and as a way to share something about ourselves. They are a major part of our society, and there's a reason for that. See, our brains are hardwired to accept stories. At Princeton University, they did an experiment, a research project, and they looked into the neurology of storytelling, what actually happens when we tell stories or hear stories. Now, it might not be surprising because of the story thing that we've just talked about and all the amazing thing that Rob said, but it does give us an idea into why stories are so powerful. When somebody tells a story, when you tell a story, the interesting thing is more parts of your brain start to fire than do when you're sharing facts, opinions, or statistics. They're parts of your brain called spatial temporal thinking. Neurons that control those areas. And spatial temporal thinking is all about where you are, place, when you are in time, but also experiencing the emotions that went along with those stories. The base emotions. If you've ever seen Inside Out, yeah, you'll see fear, you'll see happiness, you'll see sadness, and you'll see disgust. The 4 base emotions that sit in our brain and that control everything there. There is anger, but anger is really fear. We'll leave that and we'll give Inside Out a bit of a break on that one. Now, what happens is these things start to fire. When we tell that story, we experience in just a little way the place, time, and the emotions that we experienced in that story. But what's more exciting, what's more mind-blowing is what happens in the mind of your audience. Because what Princeton discovered was a thing called mirror neurons. Now, mirror neurons, or neural coupling, when you tell your story and your neurons start to fire, in the head of your audience, the same neurons start to fire in their brain. Those experiences that you're sharing, for a small time, they experience the very same emotions, the same context, the same time, and the same place. They are not affected by their experiences that they've had previously and their prejudices and their initial thoughts in the same way that facts and figures are. So just to kind of give you an illustration of this, I want you to think back to the last time you had an intense conversation about politics. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to talk about the budget. But I want you to think about the context. Think about the interaction. You see, most of the time when you get into a conversation about politics and there are two opposing sides, you end up with a volatile and quite heated conversation. But here this is the thing, it's not about the content. It's not about what you're saying. The reason that you're getting volatile is because of the frustration that nobody is giving ground. You start these conversations of, yeah, but I've heard this stat, and I know this stat, and this is what this people said, and this is what these people said, and you get this tit for tat going back. No one concedes. No one takes a moment away. And one of three things happens. Either it gets so heated that it turns into the Greek parliament and everybody starts knocking each other out. 2, somebody calls somebody a Nazi and walks out. Or 3, somebody shares a story. And I'm not talking about a story about your mother's brother's dog's uncle's monkey who once did something. I'm talking about something that they have an emotional connection to. And when we share something like this that we have an emotional connection to, something that's happened to them or as they've experienced by proxy with somebody close to them, the people around the table start to hear that and start to experience it in a little way. Now, it's not going to change hearts and minds. A Tory voter is not suddenly going to say Keir Starmer's the best thing that's happened to this country. But what it does is it starts to influence and inspire the people around us. It starts to get people to think really clearly and starts to get them to experience those emotions. And what tends to happen, the vast majority of time, is that they don't then carry on with, yeah, well, that's not what the Daily Mail said. Actually, we go, yeah, that sounds really shit. And everybody takes a little breath and a pause. And then normally what happens is the conversation following that is a little bit more measured. They take those feelings into account because we can gain empathy because we've felt and we've experienced those elements. So, stories have the power to influence and inspire. So when we're talking about this in a business term, what we can actually do, if we take our time and we craft our stories well, we can actually start to influence those around us in the way that we want them to be influenced. And at this point, I'm just going to stop and say, I am not talking about manipulating anybody into doing anything that they don't want to do. We're talking about influence and inspiration. It is about getting them to see your point of view for a short time, and that is absolutely key in marketing and advertising to somebody. So, storytelling. If that's why we do it, what does it look like? How does it work? Well, the secret is, and I'm doing myself out of a bit of a job here, but it's really not that hard. It's not a secret. It's not about being the best presenter in the world. It's not about being having a God-given talent to enthrall and inspire. It's just about structures and tools. And I'm going to give you some of them today, okay? So first of all, storytelling, we can break it down into 3 areas. Narratives, phrasing, and words. Narratives, the big picture, taking a big idea and bringing it down into something that is potted that people can understand and connect with. The phrasing, the difference between going on and on and on and on and on about something, and they talk about in a political world, they talk about the 10-word answer. Those sound bites that you hear politicians say again and again and again and again. They take a big, huge idea and whittle it down into this tiny thing. We think about the phrasing and how that works. And then we think about the words, because it is different to say, oh, it's really important. to it's incredibly important in a very short way of thinking. So today we're going to talk about these narratives. We're going to talk about just these big pictures. And I'm going to give you some structures. Now, if you Google storytelling, you're going to find loads and loads of different storytelling structures that are named after or for or by very important thought leaders from years gone by, from ancient Greeks to the modern day. There's one named after a Marvel writer now that's being used. Here's a few of them. So this is Freytag's pyramid. Freytag's pyramid you might have seen before. When we look at this, it's basically in what we call the 3-act structure. We introduce, something big happens, and then there's an ending. From the introduction, we're setting that scene. We're putting people into the same temporal spatial thinking that we're in and we want them to be in. The rise to power, the climax, the fall, and the catastrophe. If you've ever watched an Italian mob film, that's the structure. Goodfellas works his way up through the ranks, gets to the top, then the FBI come after him, and in the end, he ends up down in the desert. Okay? We've got, wrong way. We've got the Fichtean curve. Fichtean curve, lots of crises. Something happens, and then we battle against it, and we get it sorted. But then something else happens, and then we get it. And then the tension keeps rising and rising until we get to the resolution, and we come at the end. Saving Private Ryan. The beach. The beach, we get past it. Then we've got something else that happens, and we get something else, and then they end up at the end with all these tanks rolling in, and they're having to deal with it. Another one, converging ideas. This is often, we've got two people with completely diametrically opposed ideas who suddenly realize that they're not so different after all. And off we go. Okay, I'm going to introduce you and spend a little bit of time on one of them. Okay, this is probably something that people may have heard of, and it's called the hero's journey. Hands up if you've heard of the hero's journey before. Yeah, I'm glad that you guys putting your hand up because you've been on my training. Okay, so the hero's journey. It is something that's used quite a lot in business, and it's because it's easy to use. Now, if you do Google this, you're going to find a 12 to 21 point structure that is really difficult to understand. I have brought this down, and we've whittled it down into our 10-word answer into a 5-point structure. We set the scene. We use those temporal spatial thinking. We put people into the place that we want them to be in. We then introduce the challenge for the hero. What is the main challenge that we're having? Rob was talking about it earlier. What's the problem that people experience? Now, the great thing about this structure is this next bit. Because yes, we want to introduce the problem, but what normally happens is we say, oh, people have got this problem and we've created this solution. It doesn't build the opportunity in the mind of the listener. Actually, what we want to do is we want to drop into the pit. And in the pit, we're going to build that problem. We're going to make that problem bigger. We're going to add in more stakeholders that are struggling with the same problem. If we're talking about this, as Rob did before, when we talk about this and we say, oh, have you ever had that time when it clicks, as Rob said, we go a little bit further. Imagine the damage that that does to your credibility when you suddenly start to fumble around and you can't get the technology to work. Imagine how the organizers of the event feel because their systems have started to fail. People start to get distracted, to start pick up their phones. We're building that problem in the minds of the audience. And then what we do is we introduce the wise mentor. From a business point of view, this is you. Your solution, your way of working, the things that you do that are going to solve everybody's problems, the symptoms that they're experiencing on a day-to-day. For this, it's this amazing piece of kit. Okay, which is actually upside down, and I don't really like it. But, and then we go to the resolution. And as Rob said, this is all about benefit. What is the end benefit? So that I can stand in front of you and show a credible, trustworthy way of working and connect more with you and get you to see the value of storytelling in the work that I do. I'm starting to build those resolutions. So, I'm going to put my neck on the line here. We've got 10 minutes left. I'm just going to take these. I want to volunteer. We're going to do some live storytelling coaching on the stage right now. So I want a volunteer who's brave enough to tell us a little bit about who they are, a little bit about their business. I'd love somebody who maybe struggles to articulate what it is that they do. Maybe struggles to think about, how do I get people to engage with me? Have we got any volunteers? Brilliant. Meg, thank you for volunteering. Up you come. Give Meg a round of applause. Thank you very much. Just so he can hear you. Just so he can hear you. This is Meg, everybody. She has been volunteered. I didn't tell her about this. I thought you'd all be braver, you know, coming from Lancashire. But,
So be some Yorkshire.
well, this is it. You let the side down. Is it working? No.
I've never used one then.
There you go. Hello. There you go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the structure, how this works. And you can do this yourself along with us if you want. So this is how we do it. We break it down into small steps. So, Meg, what's the name of your company? What do you do?
What training?
Splat Training. And what does Splat Training do?
I'm just going to tell you about one side of the business, the thing that I do struggle with the most.
Yeah.
To market, which is sheep herding. We do sheep herding with teams. Teams come to our farm and herd sheep as a team building exercise.
Okay. Can you tell me about some of the problems that people experience or some of the symptoms that people might be experiencing in a business setting that your sheep are going to help people with? I'm so glad I chose you. I'm so glad. Okay, so from what might people be experiencing in regards to that teamwork in a business? Any kind of thing that they're experiencing that your program might help them with?
So the biggest problem is that their teams aren't communicating well, or that their teams work from home, and so they don't have much time spent together as a team.
Okay. What happens when people don't communicate within businesses? What tends to happen?
They don't get good work done.
Yeah.
They don't make money. As much money as they could. Disorganised.
This is really useful to me because I really struggle to tell this story.
And
It's birthday training, which is really easy to tell, whereas sheep herding isn't that easy to tell.
okay. So, tell me about sheep herding. I'm going to give you a challenge in 2 sentences. In 2 sentences, what is it that you do and how do you do it? So what do you do? It's very, very practical. What is it that you do when somebody arrives? What can I expect to do on that day?
We give people a fun, daft experience that takes them out of their comfort zone. We take them into a field with real sheep. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that works. And what do they do with those sheep?
They
Careful.
herd them.
Herd the sheep. So are they working together in a team to get them into...
You're good at this.
Yeah?
Yeah, they work together as a team to get the sheep into a pen that they also have to build themselves. That's part of the process.
let's just leave it like that. Okay, so, and what do people get out of this? By the time they finish, what are they getting out of it? When they leave, what do people normally say when they've left this?
So most often they say that they've learned things about each other. They might have learned that a quieter member of the team has more to say than they realised, or the leader might have realised that they need to take a step back and let the team take responsibility for things. We've sometimes had team leaders realise that potential in other employees for promotions and things as well.
Okay.
And they've laughed together, which is really important.
You wouldn't believe I used to be a teacher, would you? And do handwriting classes. Okay, I'm going to just move that round so that everybody can see it a little bit. Okay, I'm going to say team work from home. Okay, can we give Meg a massive round of applause for coming up? Thank you very much. Feel free to sit down so you're not just stood there, but I'll carry on and go from there. What we've done there is we've just asked some simple questions just to kind of get a structure together. And from that, you just fill in the gaps. It's really quite simple. So from here, we can start off and say, have you ever been in a workplace where you just feel like the team isn't meshing? Maybe they're not talking all the time. Maybe they're not communicating in a way that you want them to. You set projects and nobody really knows where they're up to, because when we're working from home, we struggle to connect with each other anyway. And the more we do that, the less we get to know each other, the less we can rely on each other, and the more siloed each of our individuals become. What you tend to find is that communication has a massive impact on lack of productivity, causing disorganization, and at the end of the day, slow growth and performance for your company. At Splat Training, we create a fun, daft experience in a field with real sheep. Working together as a team, your employees and your leaders will be challenged to bring together one of the hardest things to do, besides chasing chickens, herding sheep. From our experience, when people have come and done our projects, they have gone away learning more about each other, feeling much more connected in the team and to the company. They find those quieter members of the team that suddenly knows more than they thought they did. And those leaders find the value in stepping back and being able to utilize the values in the team that they have, instead of pushing them forward and trying constantly to hit them with a stick. This is all about productivity and end goals. And teamwork and communication starts with sheep. So, thank you very much. So, that's not me showing off. What I'm trying to say is, it's that easy. It is that easy to build a story that you can then utilize throughout your company. So what do we do? How do we use it? Okay, I'm just going to skip through this because of time. Ask me about in medias res and power of three in a little bit, three blind mice, all that kind of stuff. So what now? Once you've got that story, what are you going to do next? Well, you need to be able to articulate your story. As Rob rightly put earlier on, think about the problems that people are having. More importantly, what are the symptoms people experience that might lead you to think that they're having a problem that you can solve? Because a lot of the time, people don't know that they're having these problems. Do you have a problem with teamwork? Don't know, probably not. I know all my team. Do you find that your team aren't productive? Do you find that there's very little chat in the office? Do you find that your team doesn't socialize outside of work? or doesn't connect with each other. All of these are symptoms that might lead you to the fact that teamwork is low. Solution: articulate your solution and then add the benefits. So, building your toolbox, dead easy to do. I started to do it down here, okay? And it's dead easy to do. Start with this. What are the symptoms and the problems for a stakeholder that you're going to help? Write them down here. Write all of those practical symptoms and problems. Once you've got those, connected to every single one of them, there will be an end benefit once your solution goes into place. And you can do this for multiple stakeholders, as many as you possibly want. Build that toolbox, because then whenever you're in a conversation with absolutely anybody that could help your organization, you'll be able to properly articulate through story what it is that you can do for them. Instead of going, yeah, we kind of do a little bit of, which I find myself doing a lot of the time anyway. Then, keep it clear. I asked Meg to have a go at what do you do and how do you do it. Keep it really clear what you do. What do you do and how do you do it in real practical terms? And then once you've got those things, the problems and that, you build that story using one of those structures, because you can use any of them once you've got those. And then you just repeat it. Repeat it and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. Use it on your internal communications. Put it as the backbone of your brand voice. Use it when you're talking to people in your values and missions. Connect it within there. Use it in your emails. Come back to those problems and those solutions. Use it in networking, marketing, video content, and ads. And what you'll start to find is that story will take your company beyond just an idea and something that we do to a game changer. Something that is going to inspire people to move, to think, feel, and do. And that is how you use storytelling to push yourself forward. I'm going to stick around, and I'll be around afterwards if you want to chat. But take those 4 things, articulate your offer, build your toolbox, keep it clear, and repeat it. Thank you very much.